For the second half of the drill, it's a stabilization piece. On Sunday, I came out and set this up, and the reason why I set it up this way, is a couple reasons. One is it's kind of a cool play to put in the playbook as far as if we need to slide a car away from an object. So if we're against a wall, another vehicle, concrete barrier, whatever it is, K-rail, then it gives us, if we slide this thing, it gives us all the space we need on the other side to cut without having any 42s over there in the way. It also gets us hands-on with multiple pieces of equipment and kind of seeing some different things with setting up chain and the cable hoist and the 42s, the straps, all those things. So the way that it's set up is just to show some different options to be able to do this. There's tons of ways to do this. I would say the go-to, usually we come up and throw two 42s on the front side where the engine compartment is, make a triangle. It's pretty stable. The thing's pretty stable as it is. We put a step chock on the other side under the B-post, which is like the go-to move, and then these wheels keep it from coming back this way. So maybe a little bit of overkill, but good to show that it's an option. The tie back is a really cool thing because it prevents that lateral movement that direction, and then when we tension it, that pressure's coming back at the 42s down through the base plates, and it's really, really solid. This thing's definitely not going to go anywhere. So when we are using the chain, we do have to find what's going to be best to hook to. As far as this scenario goes, these were two options or 2 points that we thought were good to grab. It is worth noting, I mean, if we were to grab one of the control arms or actually grab a suspension component, then yeah, that's going to move on us, and that can move. These, to me, are solid. Both these spots are solid, yeah. I don't think that's going anywhere. So when we talk about grabbing, you know, this stuff with the chain for the tie back, if we grab something high up and we go to use the cable hoist, what happens is that pressure comes down the 42s and it likes to bind up, and it's really hard to slide this car. If we have the chain set low, then we run the risk of pulling the bottom of it out, and as that pressure with the 42s is pushing up, we do have the potential for it to roll. So we want to try to go mid-level. That's why with this setup, I found this spot, and that spot worked out pretty darn good to keep it level. We also have to talk about our system and what could potentially fail. So if we're setting some up like this and we have all these different pieces of equipment in play, we want to look at the weak link. What could potentially break? The lowest weight rating of this whole setup is going to be our straps. So 3,300 pound, 3,330 working load limit on those, but those are tested at 10,000. So we have some play. Everything's got a safety factor. So this would also be a potential weak link, but it's double back on itself, which gives us 4,000 pounds. If it's not, and it's a single cable, not double back on the snatch block, it's only 2,000. So that could be the weak link. This chain is new. It's grade 100, still 3/8, but it's 2,200 pounds stronger than the other chain that we had at grade 70. This is 8,800 pounds. It's got the grab hooks on there with the collars, which are really nice. So that's cool. The anchor at the truck is 6,000. So all this stuff, we're well within what we're trying to do. We're not lifting anything. We're not, you know, taking the entire weight of the vehicle. With the 42 struts, we have between 4 and 18,000. So well within that as well. It depends on how many pins we have in our setup. That's actually a 1-pin rating. Even though we're using 2 pins, that's a 1-pin weight rating. We have to put 2 pins through each section for it to be a true 2-pin rating. So the way we do that is we either add 2 extra pins, or we just collapse the whole thing, just extend the blue or just extend the white. There is no difference in weight rating between using those two. Whatever section you choose to use is up to you. And then we could throw 2 pins through the red base, and that's a 2-pin weight rating. With the straps, the way that we set them up, you'll see when we go to find a purchase point for the top of our attachment head, it's just equally as important to have a good spot down below to grab with your ratchet strap. So here we could grab here or here, but then it kind of put that base plate up at an angle. It doesn't keep the base plate solid, so we went underneath, came around and wrapped here. I gotta find my hook cluster. So this is one way to do it. If we are going to use the attachment head, they're rated. Each side's rated for different weight ratings. Also, the more flat side with the chain slot is rated for 6,000, and then the pointed end is actually rated for 2,000 less at 4,000. So just know, if you're worried about that, there is a difference in weight rating. The other thing is they roll. They obviously spin. So when you're grabbing with the pointed side, sometimes they like to shift. So sometimes it's a little cumbersome, especially if they're trying to roll on you. That's why I like using the other side every chance I can. We just don't always have that option to grab. With the 42 straps, something I did on this one is I doubled the strap back. So you can see on the bottom here, I ran the strap through the base plate back to itself. This happened to me on a call. And what happened was I grabbed a spot down low and I ratcheted the system. Everything was good. And then I didn't have enough space to release my ratchet, and I had to kick the base plate out from under it. So actually who showed me was Tony. It was on Sierra College, that Jeep rollover we had, and you ran the strap back to itself. And that's who I learned that from, is just I pick up little things on these calls. But what it does is it frees up, it gives you more space there so you can release the tension on your system, because I got myself in a pinch. So I thought that was cool. The other piece of it is if you take the tail end and wrap it through your strut and then grab the base plate, when we go to slide this car, you can put some upward pressure here as you winch the cable hoist, and then you can slide this vehicle. You can also grab it with a New York hook if you want, kind of keep you out of the way, or just stand off to the side a little bit in case something was to fail. So that's also an option. With our hook clusters, these are cool too, especially if we want to do a quick tie back, maybe with a 42 strap. We can grab spots on the underside and the unibody right there, and we can use that as a quick tie back anchor spot if we want. So something else. We could also throw that into here if we needed a little bit more, and maybe come up to here with our ratchet strap. There's lots of use for them. The struts don't like to be side loaded. That's the only way that they're concerned that they're going to fail, is if we side load them. So there's different trains of thought. You can go wide with your chain and then narrow with your 42s, but then you run the risk, if we don't have a good anchor midline to the car, then you run the risk of side loading with your chain on the 42. There's a different variations. I've seen people do a 42 chain, or wide with the 42s, narrow with the chain. I think with this car worked out really good to show it this way, where we have good spots to grab with the chain in the center and good spots to grab the 42s wide. So that worked out pretty nice. And then, one other thing too, is if we are doing this setup, we got to try to get these angles as close to possible, because if one of them's steeper, when we go to slide, it just binds on that one base plate, and then you got to start walking the car like this instead of pulling it equally. The attachment heads, the height of those, it doesn't matter as much if we are doing it this way for setting up for a slide, but the angles are important. Try to get them to match up pretty close. These things obviously like 45 optimal, but 45 to 70 is what we want to shoot for. And the only way that you can know to get a true 45 really is if you use the longer strut. This is the smaller strut. It's a little over 2 feet collapsed, 5 feet of throw extended. The other one's 3 feet with 8.5 feet of throw. With this one, it comes up a little bit short to get a true 45. The other one though, we can get that 45. Just run your strut up to the height that you want to grab, and then just run your base plate out that same distance, and then extend out, and you know you're at a 45. So that's just making a triangle. These are a little too short. We come up short to do that, so it's a little bit steeper of an angle, but it's okay. It still works out pretty good. What else? When we're talking about our come along, obviously it's set to tension, how it is, and then I was always shown to release it like this. So I'd come here, grab a spot, take the load in my hand like this, and then release the tension that way by pulling the trigger. But then I was shown this week actually that is a little easier way to do it, is to just flip that, and then you can release it one click at a time. I had just never seen that. I like doing this stuff. I learned something each time. That was something I learned this week that I thought was cool. I just didn't have experience using this before doing this job, and so that was how I was taught. And then now that I saw that, I think that's going to be my go-to, because there's a lot less thought that goes into doing it that way, and you only have to flip one switch like that. So way safer. Yep. Yep. It's pretty sketch to do it that way. Now I know with this car, it doesn't weigh more than 3,000. I've done this drill quite a few times, and I know what that weight feels like. I'm expecting it. I know what the tension feels like. But if it's something heavier that I haven't used, who knows? Like maybe I go to grab that, I release the trigger, and I'm like, oh, that was a lot more than I was expecting, or something could happen. So kind of could be sketch. As far as using these shackles in play, they're stamped with 8.5 tons for the working load limit. A lot of chain accessory type stuff is stamped like that, so you'll know kind of where you're at. And it only really matters to just know what could potentially fail on me, what we can watch for. Also, you'll see that these are bigger shackles that we got from the Rescue Connex. So these are normal ones fit into these hooks, and they can lock, or you can just turn it around and unscrew the red piece and put it through with this piece locked. That's what we did on this one. So you can see it won't fit in there, but if you do it that way, you can get it to lock. One more thing, if we want to do a quick tie back, like we had one on Sunrise, and we pulled up, and this lady she wasn't really hurt, but the car was on its side. It was an SUV, and the cop had showed up first. He opened the rear hatch, and he climbed in there, and they were like both standing, basically kind of hunched over in the car, and he was like helping her grab her stuff and like get her out, and like the car was rocking, like probably wasn't going to fall over, but we did just grab a quick tie back with a 42 strap to the turntable anchor on the truck while they were doing their thing, and then we told them to get out of there because it was looking kind of sketchy. One other thing with if we want to do a quick tie back, we can grab a 42 strap like this. If we don't have maybe all the time in the world to set something more intricate up like this, we could go here. And then if we are looking for anchors, let's say we don't have something super easy to grab with our hook, we could grab something something like this, and then just kind of wrap. There's a couple ways to do it, but you can wrap the strap in itself here, and then just grab here. So that gives you an option. If this is a tree or a light standard or something, you can go around it and grab that for a quick tie back. So, or you can pull it all the way through and large foot it back onto itself. That's an option too. So something we could do quick if we wanted to do a quick tie back. Yeah. So when we are going to do this setup, we have to worry about two different heights. We have to worry about our 42 heights. We have to worry about where we decide to put our chain. So I kind of mentioned a little, but if we go low with the chain and high with the 42s, we could roll this thing. If we go high with the chain and high with the 42s, they bind up. If we go too shallow with the 42s, they also bind up. You have to really try to get these angles to kind of match as close together as possible. And if you keep that chain mid-level, it is optimal to set it up. You're going to run into some issues if you set this up the other way. Will it work? It will still work. It could get a little bit kind of sketchy, or it could bind up and then you're kind of walking the car. But if you do set it up with close angles and a good midpoint with the chain, it slides together real nice. The only thing it might do is depending on where your anchor is. So like if this anchor is off to one side, like we are kind of set up right now where the anchor is closer to the rear end of the car, you'll see it wants to obviously follow your anchor. So just know that it's probably not going to pull off super level. I couldn't pull the truck really any further forward, so this is what we got. That's why it's good to use this though too, because you get a little of that self-equalizing with the chain, which helps if you're not totally in line, because that's not reality. We can't always park perfectly in line with these things, or there's not always going to be an anchor perfectly midline to the vehicle. So